but we'll try. Oh, listen to that, recording in progress.
Oh, there we go.
I have a voice now. I never had that before. So yeah, welcome everyone. Last day of May, crazy but true. Open water swimming has started here in Vernon, which seems crazy. It was 13 degrees in the lake yesterday. I did not go in, but there were a few that ventured out there. Looks like the next couple of days are going to be very warm, and that's why I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about nutrition, electrolytes, fueling for these longer activities as we transition into what looks like we might just have some races maybe happening, who knows. But definitely looking towards that idea of how do we ensure that we have the fuel to start our workout, the fuel to maintain that effort during the workout, to recover from it. And then we have been doing here in Vernon those 5Ks, and it was really interesting to watch as our efforts increase, sort of how we can work and learn a little bit about our breathing at effort when we are running, more so than anything else. So that's kind of what I thought. It's a mishmash, but I thought there'd be good topics that we can always revisit throughout the next few weeks as well. So I'll get started unless anyone has anything else they would like to add or think about or have me touch on. Anyone? All right. So I think the most important thing about nutrition is it actually needs to be really, really simple. We need to look at 3 elements. You have water, you have salt, and you have sugar. And those are the 3 elements of training nutrition that are super key. So there's lots of formulas out there as far as how you can get those, whether it is from liquid nutrition or from real food like peanut butter sandwiches. But it really does come down to math and understanding what it is you're taking in, why and when to take it in. So I'll start with the real basics, which is our pre-workout nutrition. And I just had a nutrition client today that I started working with who's in Pennsylvania, and she's new to triathlons and Ironman. And I think she really appreciated when I said this. When you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go for a swim or go for a bike ride or go for a run, just be happy you got out of bed, and don't really worry too much about your nutrition unless that workout is over 2 hours. Because in order for you to actually digest any nutrition in the time before you work out, so if I'm going to do a run at 5:30 or 6 a.m. in the morning, I'm not going to get up at 4 o'clock on a regular basis to have breakfast, which would simulate what it is I'm doing on race day. I'm pretty happy I'm getting out of bed and I'm going to go for my run. But then what's really important, and Cooper's going to come say hi. What's really important is also understanding that your nutrition during your workout. So if I'm going for a run at 6 o'clock or doing a swim, I might have a water bottle of maybe 100 or 150 calories of an electrolyte drink, but I'm really not going to have a lot more than that because the workout is basically shorter. So what's going to be most important in that pre, during, and post is that post nutrition. Making sure that you get those nutrients, that 80 grams of carbohydrates, getting some protein, anywhere from 20 grams of protein, and some good fat, so that now you restart your day and you're not going to be behind the 8 ball. So we're talking about real people who have lives that get up really early to get in what it is we love to do. And like I said, I'm not going to ask you to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning on a regular basis. Now, race day, your race starts at 7. It's not going to be abnormal if you have to get down to race site for 5 or 5:30 to have to get up early. So you do want to have some idea of how your body is able to deal with nutrition early. But if you do that all the time, you're just going to get overtrained and overtired and be cranky. So we don't want that, because we want you to actually have energy to train. So it means that every once in a while you do have to think a little bit, and especially as the weather starts to get warmer and the days are longer, you might want to consider, okay, I'm going to do my long ride on a Saturday and I'm going to start that long ride at 7, which means I'm going to get up at 5 or 5:30 and I'm going to see what can I actually eat to feel like my stomach feels and I have good energy, and I don't need to eat right away on the bike until maybe an hour and a half into it, especially if you're doing something of 4+ hours. In saying that, if that kind of goes to hell in a handbasket and you wake up at 5 minutes to 7, all that means is that you're actually going to have to start eating earlier on your bike, because otherwise you're going to get into that deficit. So rule of thumb is that during our actual activity, we can get around 20 to 30, 40% of our used calories, what our output is in nutrition. We will never be able to replenish our full nutritional needs for activities that are longer than 3 or 4 hours with nutrition. We just don't want to get into a deficit. So by that, I mean, first and foremost, we use our our blood sugar, our blood glucose, and then we start moving into our liver glycogen, which is where we store. And if worst case scenario happens and you totally bonk, you're going to go into muscle glycogen. And that's when the body starts to really have a hard time recovering. So when we think about training, our whole goal with training is to stress the body, allow the body to recover so that it can get stronger. If all we ever do from a nutritional perspective is stress it, and never give it that opportunity to recover, then that's when we find ourselves either getting overtired, fatigued. I like to call it bump and go modes. Sometimes for whatever reason, the doors just shift and I walk into a door. Seriously, the door never changed. It's been there forever, but I'm tired. And so you have to kind of understand, first and foremost, who are you when you're pretty logical? And then what happens as you either, one, overtrain, don't get enough nutrition. Hydration is super important, particularly as we go through these shifts, and it's not unusual. So this coming weekend would have been typically the weekend of the Oliver half. And Linda knows as well as I, and I know Valerie as well, and Diane, that the Oliver half can often be the hottest day of the summer ever without any training, without any ability to allow the body to adapt. So as we move through summer, our bodies will adapt to this heat. We'll understand how to perspire. We'll understand how to cool our bodies, and it won't be this extreme. But it's really important in these next 3-4 weeks that we give our body what it needs, so that, because it's not used, we're sweating a little bit more. It's just an adaptation. So a really nice rule of thumb is for every hour of activity that you're outside, ensure that you give yourself 1 bottle of hydration. And by hydration, I mean either electrolyte drink or water. Electrolyte drinks, ones that I like, it's really about taste. There's Scratch, there's Elode, you name it. There's more brands out there now than I can ever keep track of. But going back to what I mentioned at the very beginning, sugar, salt, and water. Please don't do an electrolyte drink when you're working in towards a half Ironman or longer that has 0 calories, unless you can't handle the sugar and you're doing something like noon and you're getting your calories from somewhere else. You do not, especially for like an hour or an hour and a half workout, we can top up, because as you start to move into these deficits, it's actually hard to maintain your caloric input. So having that for a 2-hour run, and you're having 1 bottle of Elode and 1 bottle of water, now suddenly you've given yourself an extra 100 calories. But it's really, really important that when you take food with you, such as gels or chews or bars or anything like that, you take that with water. Because all of those electrolyte drinks are made to be a 6 to 8% sugar solution. And if you start adding a gel or bars, now there's too much carbohydrate and you run the risk of actually becoming a little dehydrated and cramping. So if you've ever had that, you know what it feels like. If you haven't had it, but you're like, oh, I don't really believe her, and you try it and you experience it, you'll be like, oh, funny, that's what she was talking about. And I'll be honest, there's some people who have iron guts. You can take whatever, you have no problem whatsoever, all the power to you, awesome. But I don't really want people to have to challenge that and think that's the goal. What I want people to understand is what works for you. So typically speaking, a bottle of hydration per hour of activity, working with using water when you actually ingest food with that, and food can come in the form of gels or actual solid food, and using electrolytes to offset that through your hydration. That should be a really nice combination of our sugar and our fat, our sugar and our salt and our water. Otherwise, there's too much sugar. Otherwise, if all you do is water, you're going to be diluting what it is we perspire out. So it's just finding that nice little balance that works for you. So right now, I would actually say increase your electrolytes as your body gets used to this added heat. I know, Diane, you said, oh, it's 23 degrees on the coast. You perspire a lot more than we do. So you think about what it is you're losing in perspiration. So one way to look at it, and I'm not a big proponent of this, but if you go for a run and it's a hot day and you weigh yourself before and then you weigh yourself after and you've lost like 5 pounds, you haven't lost 5 pounds. You've lost 5 pounds of water weight. You have become dehydrated. So 5 pounds is actually equal to, well, 3,500 calories is a pound. So you multiply that by 5, you've got around 18,000 calories that you would have had to have burned in that run if you in fact lost 5 pounds of body weight, which is not possible. So that's about as much science as I can typically take, but it makes the point. It's way easier to lose body weight when it's hot. That's water and fluid. And that's actually really, really detrimental for athletes because it helps with our hydration. It helps with our muscle being able to relax. It helps with all of these biochemical, and you guys are way more scientific. I'm probably talking to more PhDs than anyone I know. But what it is you definitely know that the body is out of balance. And we're trying to bring back the balance for that recovery. And that's where nutrition plays such a large role. So when you think about your longer weekends are a really good opportunity to play with how many calories, what can I have in my stomach to allow me to feel like I can still run, ride my bike, go for a swim. During your activity, you're looking at anywhere from around 150 to 200 calories if your activity is less than 6 hours. As we start increasing, you could be working closer to 200 to 300 calories. More is not better. You just want to make sure you get enough that when you finish the ride, and this is key, and I say this every time I do this talk, is you should not be angry at a red light. You should not get really pissy at the fact that you have to stop at a stop sign on your bicycle when you're 4 hours into your ride. But it happens because we're grumpy, because we're hungry. There's no other reason for why you would be upset at a red light other than the fact that you're tired and you're hungry. So that in itself is a really, really good feedback mechanism to go, what did I eat? And we can get stingy, right? Like those gels, they're $2. And I get that, we want to save our money sometimes, but it's $2. $2 is not worth being grumpy on your bicycle and ending your ride without 20 minutes at the end of it going, oh, I should make sure I have some nutrition. And I always use honey stingers, and I almost always finish with like half a package. And I think, oh, I should save this half a package for my next ride. Just eat the rest of the package when you get in the house. I mean it, because you're going to forget about it. And not only will it get stale and gross, you really do need those calories. So it's kind of funny, the games we play with our nutrition to think that we can get away with less than what we really need. And again, it's not about needing more, but it's giving yourself the opportunity to get off that bike. And if you need to go mow the lawn, you have energy to go mow the lawn. So one of the things I remember when I was racing, I was waiting tables. And I remembered having a really, really solid, strong, long ride. And I had to go to work, and I was working a 2 to 8 shift or something like that weird. And I remember halfway through my shift going, oh my gosh, I can so do Ironman, because when I'm running, I don't have to be nice to people. But I remembered I was waiting tables, and I was courteous, and I had patience, and I was part of their day. And I thought, I think I kind of nailed my nutrition on my ride, because I should be really, really tired and kind of grumpy, but I wasn't. And it really all comes down to nutrition. So as we start moving into this next phase where we get into longer rides, back-to-back days, if you find yourself uncharacteristically short or a little angry, or, you know, just not your normal little chirpy self, ask yourself, do I have enough nutrition? Did I get enough on that? Because that's the feedback. Because I can guarantee all the faces that I'm looking at right now, you guys generally are what I would categorize really lovely people. You tend not to be angry, but when we're hungry, that's what happens. So it's just a really good feedback. So what I'd like to do is open it up to people, because Furman's doing his, it's your first half, right, Furman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's happening. So
yeah, it is. Something will happen for sure. We're going to get into that longer distance for sure. So I would love it if anyone can share some of the things that they do right now. And again, this isn't about necessarily copying, but giving ideas. And I can almost guarantee that the three others on the call will all have four, because Dave and Diane are a couple, will have some different ideas of what it is they do. So I don't know, Linda, do you want to start and maybe tell us what works for you on your nutrition? Because I know that you've had some experience.
I think it's just the information you've given me about how many calories to take in before a long ride or event, and when to have them, and then after that how much salt and how many calories per hour during. Like, that's what I need exact information. It can't be, oh, try a bar here and there, you know. I need exact quantities. So, you know, a bottle of water, a bottle of electrolyte, that helps me. And I think just having a plan, which I needed help with, I've needed help with on many occasions, and you've helped me through that. So I think it's just knowing what you're supposed to have, and then having a plan and following it, no matter whether you feel like it or not at the time.
Yeah. There's a lot of math involved, isn't there?
Yeah. And I need that. That's totally it. It's the numbers. It's the numbers that I understand and that I can deal with. The things that aren't quite exact, I'm very indecisive about.
Yeah, perfect.
Even you saying a bottle, I'm like, well, how big a bottle? Is that a 500 ml bottle?
Yeah.
How big a bottle?
Yeah. And it's funny because everyone's brains function differently, right? And that's what's so great by getting a group of people to kind of discuss what it is their needs are and what it is. Because ultimately on race day, we want to be confident. We want to be on that start line. Hi, come here. Come, up. Hi. We want to be on that start line and go, yeah, I'm ready. I can do this. So things can sometimes shift based on conditions. You know, you thought it was going to be hotter and now it's not so hot. Or you thought it was, you know, there's lots of things that can happen. You lose a water bottle, but then you know, well, at the aid station, I need to grab this so that I stay on my plan. So plans can be, it's important to have a plan, because the reason you have a plan is to understand if you get off that plan. So what I'll do is I'll send out that nutrition overview that I always have, and it'll have a race day nutrition. And then Furman, what you're going to do is basically play with it and go, this is what I did this week. This is what I did the other week. So you have the opportunity to experience some things pre-race rather than experimenting on race day. Valerie, do you have anything to add, since you have a little bit of history with some racing?
I just find that there are like the general guidelines that you give, and then you get to the day of the race and have to be prepared to adjust them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some people I find get so hung up on, I have to do it this way, and this is the only way, and it may not be the best way for that particular day. So it's nice to try things that have some flexibility that allow you to switch over. I've had people who have removed my nutrition from my bike while I'm in a swim and come to do my bike and find that I have no nutrition anymore. So knowing what my options are to quickly adjust for that is helpful as well. Don't get tied up with the absolutely perfect way of doing it, but a range of really good ways of doing it.
Awesome. And I think that's sort of what we call having a plan with a really big eraser.
Well stated.
Yes, but you know, okay, I'm going to be on my bike for 3 hours. If I'm on my bike for 3 hours and I need 200 calories an hour, I need to have access to 600 calories. I'm not sure, maybe that typically is going to be 3 bars and 2 gels, but because I can't find my bars for whatever reason, now I'm going to make sure I have 4 gels and a banana. So you can mix and match to understand. So that will be the process.
Is there like a formula for like a half Ironman?
Yes,
Like
I
if
will
you're
send
planning
that.
on doing 6, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically what we do, there's so many options. So I've had people do races, I'm not kidding you, with baked potatoes and salt. I've had
Oh,
people
really?
do full races on just pure liquid nutrition. There's a product called CarboPro or Sustained. It really depends on how people's stomachs are, and it depends on how people feel about, you know, chewing and eating and getting enough hydration in. So I give sort of a bit of an overview. There's no doubt that at the beginning of the race, that first 2 hours, your body is more able to digest real food because there's still blood hanging out in your belly, helping with that digestion process. As you move into 4+ hours, you're dehydrated and blood's hanging out in your arms and your legs, getting you to where you need to get to. It's not really that effective to help with digestion. So it depends also on your effort. Higher heart rate, higher, closer to your lactate threshold, it's a lot harder to actually digest real food at that effort because your body's busy doing other things. So that's what it is we want to kind of figure out and feel. Sometimes if you're planning to do a race and it's 6 hours and you've never only tried liquid nutrition until race day, you might go 4 hours in, oh my gosh, my stomach needs something in it, because who really goes 4 hours without a lot of food? We've almost always have something. So by the time you start your event, you've been up, you get up at 4. If your event starts at 7, you've been up at 4:30, you've had something maybe at 4:35. Then maybe you've had a gel either before the swim. But if you think about it, by the time you get off your bike, you're, at least if you're in a half Ironman, you're 4+ hours from having food. If you haven't practiced what it's like to eat liquid or eat just bars, the body isn't going to understand. So that's why when I say to you, for when we do sort of a 5+ hour ride, it's really, you're not going to be on your bike that long, but you're going to be out there for that long. And we need to know the body. Hi, Cooper. We need to know what the body needs and how it feels and be exposed to that.
Okay.
So I'll send all that out, but this was sort of a nice, just a nice little intro to it. And as I said, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like a really big fan of like the lime black pepper Miss Vicky's chips. I should probably like become, I should just get stocks in those in the summer. I don't eat them any other time. And it's my body requiring and craving salt. 1, I'm typically dehydrated. I'm pretty notorious for that. And 2, after my ride, I eat right away, but I know I'm doing other stuff. I'm outside because I love being outside. So some people go inside and they do more indoor stuff. I'm outside in my garden and I'm getting dehydrated. So whether or not your activity is only limited to being on your bike or running outside and everything else is indoors, if you're outside active on a regular basis, in addition to what it is, you're also getting dehydrated. And you just really need to be aware of how much salt and sodium. So as an athlete who's training, if you're doing garden work and you're outside in your yard for, you know, an hour, 2 hours, consider it the same as almost a regular workout in how much hydration you need to help replenish that, because you're still getting under that baseline and you're depleting yourself. So especially the minute it gets over 25 degrees. It's not unusual. And again, here it's, the days are longer, we're out there longer. It's still 27 degrees here in Vernon right now. Like that's abnormal for May, but it happens every year. Every year we get this onslaught of heat, and it's just a really good opportunity to see how the body deals with it. And so that then when we come to race season, we're aware of what's happening with that. So yeah. Any other questions with regard? I know it's a lot of information. It's like, blah, but as I said, I will send out to the group the recap as well, and I'll send out the link for the recording, and that way you have those forms and documents to kind of fill out to get that baseline. Most of you have done them before, but it's always good to revisit. Anyone else have anything to say, share with regards to nutrition?
I have one
Say
more
something.
Yeah.
So, in my experience, what works in training doesn't always work in racing.
Is
And I
your
think that's partly to do with heart rate.
Mhm.
Like the last Ironman I did, which was way back in 2010, I went with Cliff Bars too long, and I had cramps for like 8 hours, and I eventually stopped running for about 20 minutes, and it cleared. But you know, I tend to go too much solid food, and you can get away with that in a half sometimes.
Yeah,
With a
you're
long
absolutely
distance
right.
race, I think going forward, I would go to liquid food earlier.
Yeah, and I would not disagree with you at all. So again, there's not a lot of blood hanging out in our bellies after that 4 to 6 hours. So that's why a half Ironman, you can get away with it. You're not going to feel awesome, but it's not going to stop you in your tracks. And I guess that's a big takeaway. The issue with the solid food is you require more water to help digest that.
Yeah.
So by that point, into 7-8 hours into your Ironman, you are guaranteed dehydrated. So now you're not only needing to, so the answer to that, if you wanted to do real food, would be being aware of how much water in addition to the 1 bottle of hydration you would need in order to help digest the Cliff Bars or whatever bar it is you're eating at that point, so that you're still getting that bottle of nutrition that you require. And again, you know, Diane brought up a great thing. Is it 750? Is it 500 mils? A lot of it will depend on the heat of the day. So when it's a hot, and this is when I kind of brought back to the weight loss, right? We're not losing 5 pounds of body weight. We're losing 5 pounds of water weight. So that shows just how depleted we get when it's a super hot day. As well, you guys coming from the coast and racing in the interior, and you arrive on the Thursday, you don't have the same heat experience that we have. It's crazy. So you're basically experiencing what we're experiencing the day before the race. And you have this massive change of temperature that we're kind of like, oh, it's August. The days are shorter. It's actually chilly. I need a sweater. And the rest of you guys are like, oh my God, it's like boiling. It's like 29 degrees and it's a different heat. So where you come from really does change also. It's a lot harder to come from the coast and race with only a 3 or 4 day temperature adaptation than it is for someone living here, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
The morals live in Vernon.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, come on up. I'll keep your houses for you.
I was thinking about
what was that?
Go ahead. Sorry, I was thinking about the altitude change in Calgary. It's because they're a couple hundred, they're a few hundred meters ahead of higher than us, right?
Huge difference, but they're definitely,
No, okay.
yeah. I haven't had anyone race in Calgary and really feel a big, it's not like going to like Boulder or Denver or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's no doubt though, like I know for myself, and you go to Silver Star every winter and you go ski. I know when I do my first mountain bike ride up at Silver Star, I feel it, right? There's a little bit of, all right, the air is a little thinner up here. So
felt it yesterday on the second switchback. You can definitely feel it thinner. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and everyone's also really unique when it comes to the adaptation of altitude. So there isn't a whole lot we can do with altitude pre-event. It's an awareness of it. So usually what happens is that if you had the luxury, like a lot of people, because it takes basically 3 weeks for a red blood cell to become mature. So what happens is if you spend a lot of time at altitude, and your body can't acclimatize to it, and you're there 2 weeks, you'll have really inefficient red blood cells hanging around in your body. And that's what kind of makes you feel like sluggish. And it's just a little harder to deliver the oxygen. So that's the biggest thing with altitude, is that the air is just a bit thinner, and it's really hard to cook.
Oil water, yeah.
Hey, Linda, you were going to say something, I think, a little earlier.
Just that I keep thinking I have the nutrition figured out, but then it always seems to change. So I think the first year it happened to me was probably when I was training for that first Ironman. I kept thinking, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And then the next ride or whatever I go out on, my stomach would hurt, or it just, I don't know, it just wouldn't feel right. And so I think that's maybe sort of what Val was saying, to be adaptable too. Not just in terms of what's available, but in terms of what is going to work for you. Because it may take a while to figure out. I took I think probably a month to figure out what I was actually going to do, because I kept playing with things to see what worked more consistently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even now I don't know what I do, because it might be different again.
So and again, that's where it's really important to understand, do I need 200 calories? Do I need 300 calories? Because you can go overboard, right? You can try to eat too much. When it's a super hot day, going to 600 to 800 milligrams of sodium is okay. If it's a regular 20, 25 degree day, 23, you might be fine with 400 milligrams. So there's always going to be this ebb and flow based on our conditions that I think is important. And you know what? Every day is its own day. Like, I don't know about you, I kind of have a pretty simple routine in the morning, but there's some mornings where I'm like, funny, I don't really feel like eating that today. And that might just happen on race day, right? Like, we can't control, for those of us who like to control things, it's hard because it's still just a day, like any other day. It just happens to be a day that you're going to ride your bike with maybe 1,800 other people and start and finish. But we're still dynamic individuals that have different requirements. And so understanding what our needs are from the basis of the math and the craziness of my dogs, the basis of the math is really important to go, I know that if I can get 200 calories an hour, I know that if I can get 400 milligrams of sodium, I know if I get 1 bottle of hydration in, I've got a really good base and foundation to be able to go, oh, it's a little warmer. I might need more sodium. Oh, it's really cold. I'm using a ton of energy to try to stay warm. You might, in fact, need more calories to help because you're burning more calories. I'm just going to move in the hopes that they don't fall. I can't guarantee it. So that's where the dynamics of each day become that knowledge that you've now gained from, yep, this is what my base is. And from that base, I'm going to be able to play with it. It is important to really enjoy what it is you're eating. You like the taste of it. Like, I hear people go, well, I don't really like it, but I'll do. You're 3 hours into your day and you're dehydrated. You got to be a little excited about what you're going to eat. So you could have little treats. I don't really care. You could have Twizzlers on your bike for all I care. If that's going to make you go, woohoo, I get a Twizzler versus, oh my God, I can't believe I got to stomach this stupid stinger one more time. Like, you gotta feel like you want to eat what you're eating. Because if I hear it, it's like, well, I'll get through it. It's like, you got too much energy put into other things, i.e. running, swimming, and biking. You don't want to put energy into talking yourself into eating something you don't like the taste of. So enjoy it. Know that it kind of works for you 99% of the time. Know that you can always be adaptable. I think that would be the key of basics of nutrition. Yeah. I did want to really briefly just touch on a little bit of breathing. Furman and I chatted about this at running. So we've been doing our 5K tempos here, and they've been really good. They're really painful. It's a flat course with like, you would never think it's an incline, but when you see the 30K sign, you're like dreading the 30K sign because you're like, oh my God, it's a 2% grade and I think my legs are going to fall off. But then there's that little tiny downhill. But it's really interesting. So obviously when I teach yoga, breathing is a big part of what I do in yoga practice. You can't always breathe that way when you're running and cycling and swimming. But what's interesting is that you still can take the takeaway is if you breathe and you feel really tight up through your shoulders and into your chest, and you feel yourself tighten, you are not going to be able to effectively move, whether that movement is swimming, biking, or running. And the reason I say that is because now you're holding. And we don't want to hold a position. We want to be in a position. So that means that the other areas of our body are relaxed. So it was really interesting because I've known this for a long time, but it was fun because I saw Furman and we're running and I was like, exhale when you have your downstroke for your run. And it's just a little, and then you breathe in, and then it's not all the time because you'll hyperventilate, but it's like every once in a while on the steps, just kind of do a quick little. And I remember when I do track workouts, I breathe really heavy. You want to make sure you are exhaling the crap that's stuck instead of trying to inhale on top of it. Because if you try to inhale on top of it, you're going to get really tight and you're going to hold. So whether or not it's in a long run and you feel yourself tighten because of fatigue, not necessarily aerobic fatigue, but just, again, holding your body, think about how can I just let my body be in this position? And oftentimes it means letting the shoulders relax down the back. But if you're breathing up here because you're getting tight and you're guarding, it's a lot harder to allow the body to be in that position because you're actually holding it. So if you give yourself the opportunity to practice and play with how your breath can help you relax into that position, it doesn't mean you become all loosey-goosey and you become this pile of blah. You're still integrated, but you're not holding. And I find with running, it's really, really beneficial to do it on the down with your feet every time, not every time, but when you do it, you're doing it consciously, not subconsciously. We will inhale subconsciously. You'll do that. What you'll forget to do sometimes is exhale. And then you're just adding on to it. So we hold our breath. Same in swimming a lot. I'll get people to remember to actually just breathe under the water, out. Let it out. Make sure you get rid of the water, because if you start to get tight and you're swimming and all you're doing is inhaling, or you're trying to exhale and inhale at the same time that you're moving your head, same thing. You're going to get really, really tight, and it's just going to become like you're anxious, right? Instead of using your breath to allow yourself to release and relax into it. Yeah, Furman.
I mean, waited till after the race to tell me these secrets.
Pardon me?
No, I'm just
Oh,
joking with you.
You know. That way you come back and I still have something to give you. It's called retention of clients.
You saw I was in pain. You're just like, all right, I'll tell him after.
You know what's really funny is sometimes I don't actually see things. It's like where you hold your head, right? You hold your head high. And it was fun because Diane came to visit and I was like, Diane, you need to stand up tall. But it's funny, sometimes you just see things at certain times. So yeah, it was a good learning curve for you.
That's not what you said, Mel. That's not what you said.
I said, get off the toilet. Awesome, gang. Are there any other thoughts or questions or?
One thing I do with the gels that I take is I save the ones that are good for your stomach for the run. So the ginger and the mint and the things that will calm your stomach.
Yep.
I save those for the run because I know my stomach's going to be like, really, you're doing this again?
Wow, you invited me back to this party. Thanks.
Exactly. Huh.
Yeah, there are ways and strategies so basically by the time you get to the run, your belly is injured. It's a nice little description. And again, more so on an Ironman than a half, but it is about allowing yourself to be as nice to yourself as you kind of punish yourself during this event. And so there are and that's really, I think, the big takeaway, or what are things that you can do. So, you know, Furman, you might hear, oh, I take Coke. And I'm not opposed to people taking Coca-Cola, but if you take Coca-Cola too early, it's just this big shot. And we talked about sugar solutions. So our electrolyte drinks are typically 6 to 8%. Coca-Cola is 12%. So if we go back to the basics of sugar, salt, and water, it's just too high of a concentration that if you have too much of it, could lead to the body cramping. So,
what about a Red Bull or something like?
Same thing. They tend to have just a little bit higher sugar. So it's not to say people don't use them, but if you use them too early. So I would use things like that towards the end with maybe, you know, less than an hour or something to go, where it's just kind of giving you that shot, because the energy that they actually are providing is not the energy your body requires for long-term fuel. It's more, you know, a kick, boom. But then you drop really quickly. So you need to keep taking it. If you took a Red Bull or a Coke and you didn't continue to take that, your body can't sustain that up and down, up and down, up and down, as well as it can that steadier flow of sugar release that it gets from gels or an electrolyte drink. Yeah. So yeah. Anyone else? Awesome. So I will send out the recording. With that, I will also send out the forms that I always do that are, you know, so basically it's a general overview, how many calories you typically need based on weight. So if you're like under 150, usually it's around 150 to 200 calories. If you're over 150 pounds, it's 200 to 300 calories per hour. How much sodium? There's a list of different foods. Again, there's no rhyme. There's no one way. It's understanding what's going to work for you. And then you write out what your nutritional needs are and what you've tried. See where that fits in this sort of plan and this, you know, mathematical equation of addition. And basically, it's understanding and reading a nutrition label. So take a look at the gels, take a look at your bars. If you're making peanut butter sandwiches, take a look at the bread that you're having. So I remember there was one race, I think it was Florida, and rather than having regular Coke on the field, they had Diet Coke. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. But no one knew it. So they're thinking they're getting Coke, but they're getting like 0 calories. And yeah, so, you know, Costco had a special, I guess, and the race director thought that'd be good. I don't know, but
No, that's fun. I used BioCell. I didn't realize till now that it was, it's sugar-free.
Yeah.
Carbohydrate. Yeah. So I was like, oh, maybe that's definitely the wrong one to be using there.
So it's the wrong one if what you're using it for is to give you calories. If what you're using it for is hydration and electrolytes, it's fine, but then you need to get that extra 100 calories from somewhere else. So again, so many different ways of doing it, but you need to understand what it is you're taking, what the calories are, what the carbohydrates are, and what the sodium is. And with those 3 elements, honestly, like you could probably do, well, I do know people who have done, well, Dan Kunzelman, he's done an Ironman, I think, on like Voortman cookies. Right? But he takes water and Voortman cookies, and then he has like probably a pack of like sugar or a pack of salt. And that's how it works for him. But it's still the 3 basics of sugar, water, and salt that you need to have during. And then from a daily nutrition perspective, it's ensuring that you get the energy during your training and post, so that you can get up and do it the next day, because that's what training is about. Training is the accumulative effect of asking the body to perform, stressing it just a little bit, giving it the ability to recover, so that then the next day you're ready to continue, so that then when you have your adaptation weeks and your recovery weeks, you're not having to recover so much more. You're actually able to build from those efforts. Whew, how exciting. I think we're all a little excited that it's going to be June tomorrow.
Mhm.
All right, gang. Well, enjoy the rest of your lovely Monday. I will send this out tomorrow with some recaps, unless anyone else has anything else to say.
You mentioned that there's races this summer.
Well, there's definitely, well, Calgary is proposing it's
Sounds
gonna,
like it.
yep,
Yeah.
sounds gonna happen.
They're cutting it down to 100 people per segment, but they're gonna, sounds like they're still gonna run it. Just
Yep, there are
different
running
format.
races happening, 30 feet races are happening. They are doing them staggered starts. So we'll see. It's been the motto of the year and a half. We will see. But that is, yeah. So, and then a lot of things have changed dates to September. So the Grand Fondo, things like that. So again, I think we're just happy that it's beautiful and it's warm. We can open water swim soon. Makes me excited to not look at the black line. I'm a little jealous. Kit's pool is open.
It has black lines too.
I know, but they're 137 meters long. Awesome, gang. Thanks for joining us, Furman. It was great to see you.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Yep, good job
Nice
on
meeting everybody virtually.
and have a very lovely rest of your Monday.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Mel. Thanks,
Thanks, Mel.
Nice to see you.
Bye.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Night.
Bye-bye.